Lending through your self-managed super fund can be a fantastic way, just like people talk about borrowing through trusts to increase your borrowing capacity, increase your investments. To me, self-managed super fund lending can do this, but on steroids. Let me explain why. A lot of people, when they're first building out their portfolio, they're typically at an age also that they're starting a family and they have so many other lifestyle expenses. When you buy an asset in your self-managed super fund, even if there is a slight shortfall or negative gearing, you personally aren't actually covering that cost. So it doesn't affect your day-to-day living, day-to-day family life costs, because your super fund is the actual vehicle that pays for the shortfall. You also borrow less inside of your super fund because let's assume you're buying a $600,000 asset. 9 times out of 10, if you're buying that in your own name, if you're buying it inside of a trust outside of an entity like a super fund, you've borrowed 100%. You've leveraged off equity from another asset. So your borrowing is actually 100%, which means there's a much larger cash flow gap there is inside of super. Because inside of super, you'd use the cash or shares equivalent, sell that down, and you're actually making a deposit of 20 to 30%. So your true borrowings is actually only 80% of the asset you're buying, which minimizes any losses, helps you to afford it, and as I mentioned earlier, doesn't actually impact on the cost of your life outside of that super fund. So it builds in a lot of protection. When also you're lending inside of a super fund, they don't look outside of that fund what else you have. So this is why trust lending has become so popular. It's no different inside of your super fund. When you go to the right borrower or right lender to look at that and funding that asset, they're looking at your super fund as a standalone vehicle. Does this service with inside of that fund? And they don't take into consideration what's outside of that. Perfect example, you might have your own home, a couple of investment properties, and you're completely maxed out due to the original structure of how you bought those properties. Well, if you had the money inside of your super fund to allow you to buy inside of that, then you could turn around and buy your next asset in there because you're not limited to your borrowing based on what you've already done externally. A really popular thing for business owners is to actually buy their premises inside of a super fund and then they rent it back from themselves. So you might have company A, hey, let's use the loan room. So the loan room who currently rents a premises might decide to buy its premises inside of a self-managed super fund, and I get to rent it back from myself, paying off that asset inside of the fund. So come retirement time, I can either sell the business to somebody else, they keep renting from the property that now I own debt-free, or I could sell the asset, cash it in. It's very tax effective. It gives you so many different options to buy that asset. Instead of renting it from your business, you get to acquire it. And again, you don't need the deposit coming from outside of super because you may already be maxed out. It's easy to afford inside of the super fund. We also tend to see a lot of people who invest in commercial assets buy through the super fund as well. Because when they're bought due to the net yields, you'll tend to find that particular property can actually be paid off within a 10 to 12 year cycle just from the rent alone due to the deposit and how the super fund actually works. Important things to be aware when looking to explore that path of buying an asset in your self-managed super fund is A, the setup costs of the fund. You need to have an accountant and financial planner who understands the cost of setting this up. Also the ongoing costs, the fund needs to be audited each year. And the lenders. Most lenders, or especially the big top 4 or 5 banks, do not lend to self-managed super funds. You need to find lending specialists who lend to different assets inside of super funds as well. So that's really important. If you go into your local branch, they cannot help you. If this is something you've considered, thought about, whether you're a business owner looking to buy your own premises or you're looking to expand out your real estate portfolio and want to understand a little bit more, make sure you reach out to us. Our details will be in the link below. More than happy to have that conversation and guide you through to see, is this the right step for you on your investment journey?